Welcome, deep divers. We're heading into that time of year again, Halloween. It's usually about fun, scares, costumes, you know the drill. But today we're looking at something different. Stories where the line between festive fun and actual fright just disappears. We've gathered some accounts, some personal, some true crime, all happening on Halloween. Tales that show sometimes the scariest things, well, they're absolutely real. Let's start with one about some friends, including our pal Spike. They were kind of past trick-or-treating, but still wanted that Halloween vibe. So they're wandering around sipping some spooky juice, you know, the adult kind, maybe in an old Mountain Dew bottle. And Spike, he had this amazing homemade Ghostbusters outfit, proton pack and everything. They like checking out houses with crazy decorations. Like, there's this one family who always did a fake zombie pit. Looked pretty cool, actually. Red lights, fingers coming out of the ground. But then they got to the end of Bachman Street. And this house, doors wide open, look just like a Hell House display. As they're walking up, this couple comes out, looking really shaken. They actually said to Spike and his friends, wow, they went all out. It's so realistic. We even left some money inside. I was like, thank you. Well, that's all they needed to hear, right? A super scary display.
Yeah.
In their own neighborhood. Had to check it out. So they go in. Outside looked normal enough. Pumpkin, couple skeletons, nothing crazy. Inside, though, things got weird. Fast. In the kitchen, there's this dining chair just smeared with gore. Cut ropes on the floor, kitchen knives, other tools. Looked like they had bits of flesh stuck in them, flies buzzing everywhere. The friends are still thinking explay, you know, joking about corn syrup for blood, but then one of them goes, man, where'd they get that smell? It was rank. Then the living room, even worse. This homemade doll thing on the coffee table, made of roots, clay face, one shiny stone for an eye, and around it, severed fingers, toes, even plucked out eyeballs looked like, and a little pile of dollar bills, probably from that first couple. So Spike's friends, still trying to play it cool, they actually add their own money to the pile. One's like, okay, let's just peek upstairs and bolt. This is seriously creepy. Trying to laugh it off, you know?
And that right there, that's classic normalcy bias kicking in. When you see something truly extreme, your brain scrambles for a familiar explanation. Hell House makes more sense initially than actual crime scene. It's a mental shortcut, a defense mechanism, really. But it can dangerously delay recognizing real danger.
Yeah, and that delay nearly cost them big time. They go upstairs into what looks like a kid's room. And there's this old guy sitting among stuffed animals, back towards them, long, thin gray hair. And he's squeezed into a little girl's pink frilly nightgown. He's playing with toys, making these little cute voices. Super unsettling. They just froze. Then he slowly turned around. And they see his eyes. Milky white. And his teeth. Blackening. The laughing just stopped. Dead silence. Then pure panic. They didn't walk, they ran. Scrambled out of that house, onto the street, hearts pounding, totally freaked out. And just as they get clear of the cul-de-sac, sirens, blue and red lights flashing everywhere. Police cars just fly past them straight toward that house, the one they just escaped. Later, the news confirmed it. No display, the old guy. Escaped psychiatric patient. Used to live there, he'd gotten back in, found the new family, and, well, he thought they were intruders. He tortured and murdered them. The news never said if there were kids inside, too. Just horrifying. A real-life Hell House. Wow, that story just, yeah. It really shows how context like Halloween can just warp your perception. Okay, let's shift gears. Another personal story. This one involves a costume party and a case of mistaken identity that got really dangerous. This was a student house party. We got invited through a friend of a colleague, so we didn't really know anyone there. And our costumes, honestly, pretty bad. One guy tried to be Frank Enfurter, but like just the wig and makeup. Another threw on some old cadet uniform that didn't fit. Looked kind of sad, actually. But our friend Danny, he nailed it. Michael Myers found a replica Captain Kirk mask. You know, the original movie prop was just a modified Kirk mask, borrowed his dad's mechanic overalls, plastic knife, looked perfect. And he stayed in character all night, walk into a room silently, do the slow head turn, then suddenly bust out some weird dance. Made everyone laugh. He's having a blast. Anyway, we're drinking, party goes late, cops eventually show up and break it up. So now we're outside, pretty smashed, but not ready to call it a night. Decide to walk to this 24-hour convenience store for more booze. Danny's with us, still silent mostly, which wasn't totally weird for him when he was sober anyway. Sometimes he'd do this signature wheeze laugh if something was funny. We get to the store, queuing by the little service window outside, and I look over at Danny at his prop knife, and I swear, I thought he had a plastic one earlier, but this one, it looked real. And wait, was that blood on it?
That's a huge psychological jolt, isn't it? You perceive something as harmless, part of the fun, a prop. Then suddenly it registers as real and potentially dangerous. Especially when alcohol's involved, blurring perception already. Your brain struggles to catch up, to reassess the whole situation. It's jarring.
totally jarring. So I'm thinking, oh my God, did Danny actually steal a real knife? Panicking a bit, I slowly, carefully reach over and take it out of his hand. He doesn't resist. And right at that second, my phone rings. Perfect timing, right? I pull it out, look at the screen, it says, Danny. And I'm still pre-drunk, so my first thought is, oh, he must have lost his phone or something. But then I answer, and it's Danny's voice. Definitely Danny, asking where we went. He says he just woke up, passed out in the bathroom back at the party, got kicked out when they found him, and that's when it hit us. All of us, like a ton of bricks. The guy standing right there, dressed as Michael Myers, the one I just took a real bloody knife from, was not Danny, a total stranger. Then we noticed little things. This guy was wearing gloves. Danny wasn't. This guy had work boots on. Danny just had black trainers. My friends thought I was going to attack Danny at first, but then they realized too. We all started freaking out at this stranger, yelling at him, what the hell, man? What were you planning? Following us like that. Halfway across town, just a total creep. He dropped the knife and just ran off. Honestly, glad we didn't catch him. But man, what was he gonna do? Still creeps me out thinking about it. So yeah, these stories, they really make you think, don't they? Does Halloween, with the masks and everything, actually push people towards darker stuff? Or does it just give cover for the darkness that's already there?
That's the million-dollar question, and society tries to address it. You see specific measures in some places. Take Queens, New York. Operation Halloween, they do home checks on paroled offenders, especially those with crimes against kids. No masks, no costumes, strict curfew. Break the rules, you might violate parole. And in Orange, California, some offenders have to post signs saying, no candy here, big fines, or even jail if they don't comply. So clearly some authorities believe the holiday can be exploited.
Right, and you hear about incidents that seem to back that up. Like in Orlando, police have reported crimes where suspects specifically used Halloween masks, gorilla masks in a credit union robbery, masked robbers involved in a stabbing. Florida actually has this old law from way back banning masks in public for anyone over 16. Except on Halloween, obviously. But they can use it to add charges if a crime happens while masked. So the disguise aspect is definitely on law enforcement's radar.
But it's not quite that simple everywhere. Police in places like South LA often say they don't see a major spike in serious crime, so they do staff up, mostly for crowd control at parties and stuff. One year, 2011, a captain there did mention a really high number of incidents, but it wasn't necessarily a consistent pattern year after year. And university police, like at UNC Charlotte, they report maybe a small uptick in vandalism, alcohol violations, stuff you might expect with parties. But not a major crime wave. Even the weather plays a part. Colder places like Blacksburg, if it's raining or freezing on Halloween, fewer people are out, so outdoor crime tends to drop. So yeah, the potential for bad actors to use the holiday exists, but whether it translates to a universal surge in crime, it's more complex, more localized than just saying Halloween equals more crime.
That makes sense. It's not a simple cause and effect. Okay, let's turn to one of the most chilling true crime stories connected to Halloween, one that really lodged itself in the public consciousness. Ronald O'Brien, Halloween 1974, Deer Park, Texas. O'Brien was an optician, seemed like a normal guy, church deacon even. That night, he took his son Timothy, his daughter Elizabeth, and two neighbor kids trick-or-treating. At some point, they visited a house, but nobody answered the door. Later, O'Brien met back up with the kids, and somehow they had 5 of those giant 21-inch pixie sticks. He claimed someone gave them to him at that dark house. Later that night, back home, 8-year-old Timothy asked if he could eat one of the pixie sticks. He apparently had trouble getting the powder out, so his dad helped him. Timothy ate some and immediately said it tasted bitter. His dad gave him Kool-Aid to wash it down. But then Timothy started complaining his stomach hurt badly. O'Brien took him to the bathroom. Timothy started vomiting violently, then shaking, convulsions. He just collapsed. Ronald held him as he went limp. Timothy died on the way to the hospital, less than an hour after eating that candy.
And the autopsy was just devastating. And the pixie sticks wasn't just candy. It was packed with potassium cyanide. A lethal dose, enough to kill several adults. When that news broke, absolute panic gripped the community. The idea of poisoned Halloween candy, it tapped into every parent's worst nightmare. People started turning in bags and bags of candy to the police, terrified.
Exactly. And the police investigation started focusing on O'Brien. His story kept changing. First, he couldn't remember which house gave him the candy, even though they only been on 2 streets because it was raining. Then he came up with this weird detail about a hairy, scarred arm reaching out from the dark house to hand him the 5 pixie sticks. That led them briefly to a guy named Courtney Melvin, but he had an airtight alibi, hundreds of witnesses from his job as an air traffic controller. He was cleared immediately. But then investigators dug into O'Brien's life, and they found something shocking. He was drowning in debt. over $100,000, had cycled through 21 jobs in 10 years, suspected of theft at some, car about to be repoed, house facing foreclosure.
And that financial desperation connected directly to something incredibly sinister. Police discovered O'Brien had recently taken out multiple life insurance policies on his own children. We're talking a $10,000 policy, plus 2 additional $20,000 policies on each child, all taken out in the months just before Halloween. Insurance agents had apparently advised against it, and crucially, his wife had no idea these policies existed. The motive became horrifyingly clear. Kill his kids, collect the insurance money. He even gave the other poisoned pixie sticks to the neighbor kids, likely to cover his tracks. Luckily, they didn't eat them.
The evidence just kept piling up. They found out O'Brien had tried to buy cyanide from a chemical supply store shortly before Halloween. He only left empty-handed because the minimum purchase was £5, more than he needed or could afford. Friends, coworkers, they testified he'd been asking weird questions about cyanide, about lethal doses, just really suspicious behavior. Even at Timothy's funeral, people reported him talking casually about using the insurance money for a long vacation. Just chillingly detached. At his trial, he tried to stick to the mad poisoner urban legend defense. Didn't work. The jury found him guilty of capital murder, sentenced him to death. He became known infamously as the Candyman. Such a calculated, cold-blooded act.
Okay, shifting now to a more recent but equally tragic case, Halloween 2010, this time in Ohio. A 16-year-old named Devin Griffin got home early afternoon. He'd been singing at his church choir, planned on spending the rest of the day gaming. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. His mom, Susan Lisk, worked nights, so sometimes she slept late, but not usually this late. Around 1:30 p.m., he got curious. He knocked on his parents' bedroom door. No answer.
He opened it, saw his mom and his stepfather, William Lisk Sr., in bed. There was a big maroon comforter pulled over their heads. He called out, asked if they were getting up. Nothing. He walked over to his mom's side, saw her foot sticking out, tapped it. Still no response. He kept talking to them, trying to wake them up, and kind of pulled the covers back just a little bit. And that's when he saw it. His mother's pillow was soaked, dark red. Blood. He said later his first thought, bizarrely, was maybe it was a really messed up Halloween prank. But then he looked closer, saw the huge wound on her neck, the clotted blood. Devin just started screaming, ran out of the house, hysterical, begging neighbors to call 911.
It was an absolutely horrific scene. Emergency services arrived to find a triple homicide. William Lisk Sr., 53. His wife, Susan Lisk, 46. And Susan's son from a previous marriage, 23-year-old Derek Griffin, all murdered. The suspect was quickly identified. William Lisk Jr., the father's 24-year-old son from his own previous marriage. He was arrested hours later, nearly 200 miles away, hiding out in a cabin.
And digging into Lisk Jr.'s past revealed a really troubled history, problems going way back. Even as a teenager, like 2002, his dad had called police because he was threatening self-harm. Later, while on house arrest for something else, he actually attacked the officers who responded. In 2004, a violent fight with his stepmother, Susan. Hit her, stole her keys. He was found incompetent for trial then. Moved into a mental health group home, but still had multiple run-ins with police after that, including another physical fight with his own father. Just a pattern of instability and violence.
And there seems to have been a specific trigger for this final, terrible event. Less than a month before the murders, Susan Lisk, his stepmother, had filed another police report against Lisk Jr. for assault. For William Lisk Sr., who had apparently spent years trying to help his son, trying to keep him out of jail, trying to manage his issues, that assault on Susan might have been the breaking point, the final straw that perhaps led to a confrontation that escalated tragically.
In court, Lisk Jr. didn't fight it. He pled guilty to all 3 murders, got 3 life sentences, no chance of parole. He apparently showed no emotion, just told the court he was sick, couldn't explain why he did it, blamed his mental illness. His sister gave this heartbreaking statement just saying their lives were shattered, you know. You see this stuff on TV and never think it'll happen to your family. And then a final sad twist. In 2015, William Lisk Jr. was found dead in his prison cell. Self-inflicted injury. He was 29. Just awful all around. Okay, one more story for today. This one's different. An unsolved mystery that started on Halloween. The case of Chris Jenkins. Chris was 21, a student at the University of Minnesota. Halloween night, 2002. He was out with his girlfriend and friends at a place called the Lone Tree Bar and Grill. Sometime after midnight, he got separated from his group, and then he got kicked out of the bar. The story goes, someone spilled a drink on his pants, and the bouncer thought he'd wet himself from being too drunk. Now here's the critical part. Chris was wearing a Native American costume for Halloween, and it didn't have any pockets. So his girlfriend Ashley had his wallet, his keys, his phone, his coat was inside the bar too. And it was cold out, like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. He had no money, no phone, no keys, no coat. He was last seen just walking away from the bar alone. He vanished. Months went by. Then, February 27th the next year, his body was found, floating in the Mississippi River under a bridge, still wearing the Halloween costume, caught up in some tree branches, bloated, decomposed.
The initial finding by the medical examiner was pretty straightforward on the surface. Drowning. No obvious signs of foul play. They called it a misadventure. Accidental drowning due to intoxication, basically. But Chris's family, they never bought it. Right from the start, they felt too many things didn't add up. They pushed back hard and started their own investigation.
Yeah, and they uncovered some really weird stuff. The bar staff mostly clammed up, said he left on his own. The owner apparently put a gag order on them. CCTV from the Hennepin Avenue Bridge, a bridge he likely would have crossed, mysteriously missing footage from that night. Then there were witness accounts of a big fight, maybe a gang attack outside a pizza place nearby. Was Chris the victim? Unclear. There were also rumors involving an off-duty cop working security at the bar, Mike Casey. He apparently knew Chris's girlfriend, Ashley, who also worked there. Some whispered he'd arranged for Chris to be kicked out. The official police department never formally interviewed Casey, apparently saying something like, he's a married man with children, which the family found incredibly dismissive and suspicious. Get this. They brought in bloodhounds. The dogs tracked Chris's scent from the bar to a bouncer's car in an underground garage. And they found traces of blood and fibers matching Chris's costume in that vehicle.
And then you have forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden stepping in. He pointed out major inconsistencies with the drowning theory. Drowning victims are usually found face down, arms out. Chris was found face up, arms crossed. His shirt was still tucked in. His slip-on moccasins were still on his feet, unlikely if he'd struggled in the water. Dr. Baden strongly suggested Chris might have been dead before he even went into the river. Plus, hydrologists questioned how a body could stay in that part of the Mississippi for 4 months unseen, especially since the river didn't freeze solid until January. The area had supposedly been searched before, too.
Right. It just didn't make sense. Another thing his parents noted, Chris played lacrosse, goalie. He always had bruises, big ones. But his body, when found, had no bruises. They theorized maybe he was held somewhere alive for days after disappearing. Long enough for any initial bruises from an attack to heal before he was actually killed and put in the river. It took years, but eventually in 2006, the police reopened the case, reclassified it as a homicide. The police chief even apologized to the Jenkins family. An informant later claimed they saw Chris's body thrown off the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. But again, skepticism remained. The bridge has high railings, and his body lacked the kind of trauma you'd expect from that fall. A suspect, Jeremy Alford, already in prison for another murder, was looked at, but no charges were ever filed in Chris's death. People have tried to link it to the smiley face killer theory, other young men found drowned around that time, but no actual smiley face graffiti was found connected to Chris. So, yeah, his death remains unsolved, a Halloween night disappearance with no answers. So we've gone through quite a journey today. Personal terror, mistaken creeps, calculated murder, tragic violence, unsolved mysteries, all tied to Halloween. It really underscores that sometimes the most unsettling stories aren't made up. They're real, and they leave these shadows, these unanswered questions.
Absolutely. And it raises that fundamental question, doesn't it? In a world where reality often outdoes fiction in terms of horror, How do we navigate that? How do we tell the real threats apart from the Halloween theatrics?
A question to definitely ponder. As the spooky season wraps up, think about that. What shadows do these stories leave for you? How do you see the mask people wear now, literal or otherwise? Thank you for joining us on this unsettling deep dive. If these stories grabbed you, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docx. We'll have more chilling accounts for you. Until next time, stay safe out there, and maybe be a little more mindful of the masks people wear and the secrets they might be hiding.